Welcome back to my channel. This book, Becoming Supernatural by Joe Dispenza. After that, it started snowballing into the other books today, which I will be talking about. When you read these books, they all say the same thing. Really good. It basically tells you to just like visualize the future and act like the person you are now. There's something I didn't know was, I think it was Hermes, their god that has like little wings on his feet. He was actually a philosopher, but people started to think of him as a god, a messenger for the gods, even though he was technically just a person. So they made him like a god, even though he was technically a person. That was very interesting. I enjoyed that. I used to be such like a avid reader in like sleep, because I always found that very like interesting. I was like, why do we sleep? Granted, it was part of my self-development thing, so it was like, oh, go to bed at a certain time, red light, don't eat these certain foods, magnesium. But one thing I found very interesting about each single one of them is that they brush over the pineal gland, which is the little thing inside of your brain that makes you fall asleep. In this book, it talks about the pineal gland and how it has little crystals inside of it. That little piece of part of your brain is actually very important, which I actually enjoyed this book for it, because for the longest time I was like, why is none of these sleep books mentioning the pineal gland since it's so important? In this book, it talks about it being the third eye. It goes a little bit into history where Egyptians used to worship it, like the eye there, and that's like your third eye. All these books are kind of hippie, but it does have a lot of good nuggets of information. It says, when two people with the same emotions and the same energy share the same thoughts and information bond together, and they basically manifest. It talks about the importance of like surrounding yourself with like-minded people, because the world is so much more bigger than we actually think it is. It also goes into the chakras, where the bottom emotion is like sexual and survival, while the higher level it is basically enlightenment. It also goes into some science about how the body works, how the brain works. I find it very interesting. Inner world will reflect your outer world. So instead of complaining like, oh, why this happened and stuff, you got to change yourself first, and that is through meditation, breaking old cycles, and visualizing your future and working towards it. How you have to show up for the universe, because the universe is love, and you must like present yourself with love. The universe doesn't communicate in negative feelings, it only communicates in positive. So you have to be very grateful, be humble, and also understand that things happen for your greater good. So when everything bad happens, you have to think like, oh, the universe is simply giving me what I want. It's just, you know, changing it around. So one thing that I absolutely love about Becoming Supernatural is that it talks about you need to start visualizing your future and how you would vibrate at that same frequency. So if you are stuck in the past, you will continuously have the same experience until you learn from it. If you learn from it and think about positivity and think about the future, the world will manifest itself in that way. I don't know if it sounds kind of confusing or anything, but basically it says focus on the future and what your highest version of yourself would be like, and act upon it. In the past, I used to always write down all my negative feelings. I used to always be like, oh, why this happened, how I felt, what I can change myself to fit this scenario. But turns out I've been doing it incorrectly. I need to write down what I do want in the emotions of like high vibration and be grateful, because the universe will be like, oh, this person is thankful for the thing I gave, I'm going to give it to her because, well, that's what she wanted. And sometimes it may take a while, but you got to be like consistent. Beginning of this year, I started like my gratitude journal, and if you have a very shitty day, you gotta be like, thank you for a roof over my head, thank you for clean water, thank you for, you know, this book that I'm actually able to write down everything in it, which actually is such a great habit. And then I started every night, I want to visualize my future, so I wrote it down in my little book. So in this book, this is mostly like positiveness, like me asking for things in the future. So I usually go like, dear goddess, I am so grateful for XYZ, I feel high vibration, please give me more of your blessings because I am so grateful and I want to praise you more, because apparently the universe likes to be praised and it is alive, so you have to communicate with the universe as if you already received it and be grateful, because one of the most highest forms of love is gratitude. The universe always wants to give you what you want, it's just you have to accept the process of it. And sometimes the process will, you know, take away things in your life so it can give you better things in life. And I truly do believe this, because the most, like when I go through like bad things time, I was like, why me, why that? And turns out it was just the universe simply, you know, taking away that no longer serves me and giving it me something even better. So I really enjoyed that. The next one I want to talk about is reality transurfing. When you hang around with high vibrational people, their energy will rub off on you, but you have to be very selective. What I've realized after losing the weight is that the friendships that like I used to have no longer serve me. Like when I was a bigger girl, I used to make so much more girlfriends. Like they were always very nice, they were always very like, you know, something, and guys ignore me. But now that I have lost like 20 kilos, I realized there was such a huge shift, and the only person who warned me about it was my like PT at the gym. She was the first one who told me like, oh, be careful about the relationships around you now. And I was like so confused. I'm like, what do you mean? Like they're all nice, like they're great people, why would I want to give them bad energy? Turns out like, oh no, women, like I never knew how jealous women can be. Like I always thought it was a thing, but my mindset, because I have always been, you know, the funny fat friend in the group, I've always been, you know, the invisible one that no one really cared or everyone pushed aside, and I accepted it because I was like, you know what, that's who I am. That's how I got so delusional, because I was like so ignored growing up. I was like, you know what, I'm gonna be XYZ, I'm gonna have this, I'm gonna have this, I'm gonna have this. Granted, it all starts with you, so you have to have the right energy, saying, you know what, this is not my reality, I'm going to change it. It all started with Rob Dial. He's from the podcast, the Mindset Mentor. He says everything is your responsibility, you will change it and you will like become it. Like there is no more excuses. The only excuse is no excuse. If you fail, you know what, that how you do one thing is how you do everything. So that is the mindset how I went into it. So that's why I became such an avid reader, because I'm like, I need more information, I need more discipline, everything is my responsibility, how can I become better? And I have had that mentality for like the last 4 years, and I've got my degrees, I read XYZ book, I wrote a book, it's now at the editors, who knows what will happen. And then the last one was me losing the weight, because I always knew I could lose the weight, but what I realized is when you start losing the weight, I didn't realize that how other people do it is that they lose the weight first, then they do XYZ, start business and stuff. But for me, I kind of lost the weight last because I was like, you know what, beauty and stuff at the end will, you know, I don't need it right now, I need a hustle now. What I didn't realize and stuff is just, how could I, you know, be respected in the world if I don't respect myself? And that was like such a big like hit on the head for me, because I was like, oh my god, like, oh my god, like no wonder things was not manifesting fast enough, is because the outside didn't reflect my inside. So that's why I now started to, like, you know, go to the gym like 4 or 5 times a week. I always ate healthy. You know what, losing weight is a bitch. it's not fun. But now that I have lost it, I talked to my friend Scarlett, and she was saying like, oh no, your relationships with your girlfriends, your mother, your sister, they will change, and you don't know who's truly happy for you or not, because she lost like 15 kilograms and I knew how hard that was. That took me like a year to lose that. So when she told me that, I was like so confused, but a few other things didn't make sense. Me into reading The Law of Human Nature, I was like, oh my god. And then I started reading the Becoming Supernatural, and it snowballed into reality transurfing, and I was like, no wonder none of the things worked out with me, because the most important thing of that book is like, you have to be very selective of who you share your dreams with and your goals and your achievements, because people who do not have the same mindset or the vibration or the goodness in their heart, they will subconsciously sabotage you. And it is actually very sad, because it talks about in the Becoming Supernatural and reality transurfing is that anyone can do it. It's just you have to change your mindset, and if you sabotage another person or you give them bad energy, you're basically telling the universe that you too don't deserve it and nothing good will come from it. Upsetting, but you know what, that is reality. So you have to be very selective of who you share your life story with, and don't compromise. So those are my book recommendations, and hope you enjoyed. Okay, bye bye.